Hey everybody, how are you? Yep, no hat, the hair, classic solar flare. You do you, I me mine. Great. This is leg 40 out of 100 for the Bork Family Foundation, 777 kilometers in 77 days, walking and kayaking. And what I hope to do in this leg is set the record for the longest 7.7 or 4.78 miles. I'm going to walk from daylight, which I'm in right now, through sunset, which is 8:24. Take that into the first phase of twilight, which is civil twilight, which will go from 8:24 to like 8:59, and then a phase of twilight known as Nautical Twilight, which will go until 9:44 p.m. And then from 9:44 p.m. to 10:39 p.m. is Astronomical Twilight, and then night. So I'm going to do a piece on all of that. So I hope you're having a great day, longest day. We're going to have a good summer, everybody. So don't worry. Peace. Oh, stat for Ray. Third season of the year, 17 goals, I think 48 assists. His coach was now Jerry Cheevers, and there was all sorts of young talent coming up to the team that would set the stage for their great years in 82, 83. Guys like Tommy Fergus, Mike Krusniewski, Keith and Bruce Crowder, Norman Levier, all sorts of young talent coming to the team, and they were growing as a group. And Barry Peterson had made his first appearance that year. They acquired Mike O'Connell from Chicago for Al Secor, a deal I still hate. But either way, that was Ray's third year, got injured again, but he did manage to collect 17 goals. Okay, peace. So we're just a few moments before sunset on June 21st, 2020, longest day of the year. So what about time? Well, it was very difficult to align time around the world. It was the British Railways first in 1847 who established a local time zone so their trains wouldn't collide. And then that adapted into Greenwich Mean Time, meaning they take a universal time at Greenwich, England, and then work the hours off of that. That would be usurped by Universal Time in January of 1972 when they aligned it with the atomic clock. But in the United States, the Standard Act, the Daylight Standard Act of 1918, was basically moved to adapt to time zones. Now, daylight savings time was adopted then. There are some people that don't like daylight savings time, some people that do. For instance, the Yukon just left daylight savings time in Canada. Saskatchewan does not acknowledge daylight savings time, nor does Arizona in the United States. But the benefits of daylight savings time are less car accidents, less strokes, less stress, less anxiety, less illnesses. More daylight is better for the human being. But then came the Day of Two Noons, November 18th, 1883. And that's when the Harvard Observatory, Yale Observatory, the Allegheny Observatory, which had been doing timekeeping in the United States for up to that period, and the Naval Observatory, all determined to set clocks according to noontime in New York City. They pulsed the time along all of their telegraph lines. They had over 300 telegraph offices, the Allegheny Time Service did, and that's how they aligned November 18th, 1883 to the time that we have today. Originally 5 time zones were proposed, but they eventually got down to 4. But there are some people that just think it's a waste of time. I know I'm going on 60, so I'm owed 60 hours of daylight. That's, almost 3 days of time, 2.5 days of time. But if you look at how people tell time, it's different. For instance, in Canada, there's Atlantic time and the Maritimes, and then there's Newfoundland Labrador time, which is an hour and a half ahead of us. Atlantic time's an hour ahead of us. And I time traveled once. I flew from Newfoundland in a 15-minute plane to Blanc-Sablon in Quebec. It took 15 minutes, and somehow I lost an hour. But anyways, so we're just getting ready for sunset here, but that's how the time came about. So sun sets at 8:24 p.m. It rose at 5:07 a.m. this morning. There's a rare phenomenon. We're not going to be able to see it because we need to be at a low western horizon, preferably with the ocean, known as the green flash. Green is one of the shorter wavelengths of light in addition to blue and violet. And when the sun sets, it's been photographed many times. In fact, there was a double green flash that was photographed on October 27th, 2012. Look it up on the internet. Josh Knutson, I believe, did it. Even Admiral Byrd on an expedition in Antarctica in 1934 said that his men witnessed the greening of the sun, the green flash, for close to 35 minutes. But it's been photographed several times. Look it up, green flash, and the sun is setting right now at 8:24 p.m. So I am now moving from day into sunset, and then from here we'll move into the 3 phases of twilight until the evening. Hope you're having a good night, everybody. So sunset now. If you want a beautiful sunset, well, 2 factors. You need higher clouds, number 1, clear sky. And number 2, you need a bit of pollution coming off the earth. But that's what lends to spectacular hues of sunsets. It's all about the elevation of the clouds. Here in Boston, we had rain come through, and so I thought maybe with the moisture in there, we get a bit of a rainbow, but it looks like we're setting up for a nice sunset right now. So we moved into the first phase of twilight, known as civil twilight. That's when the sun rather, is up to 6 degrees below the horizon. Tonight's lasting from 8:24 to 8:59. All right, we're in civil twilight. I have a compass here, cheap compass, but it points north. If you want to find out where something is in the sky, the easiest way is you're talking in a 360-degree circle, right? So the compass will point north, and I'm looking west right over my shoulder here. So if you go to north, to the right of north, you begin going towards 360 degrees, 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way around to north-northwest, which gets you to 360 degrees. So for instance, if I said look 340 degrees, you'd look just to the left of north or to the north-northwest. And then in terms of the sky, overhead, directly overhead is 90 degrees, right? So if I say 45 degrees, you're looking 45 degrees. If I say 45 degrees, say at 300 degrees longitude, you move off of north a few degrees like that, and that's where you should look. So anyways, the compass was first devised by the Chinese as far back as the Han and the Song Dynasty, 206 BC. They used it for military campaigns, for navigation, for the marine vessels, way ahead of Western Europe. The dry compass, the magnetized needle, doesn't come into medieval Europe and medieval Middle East until the 1300s or so. And when Columbus came across the ocean, he did it by dead reckoning and celestial navigation. They locate stars. And in fact, the second phase of twilight, which is nautical twilight, that's when the stars come out. So we are in right now, you call in civil twilight, the golden hour. This is the hour that painters love, film producers love them as well because of the golden light that it gives. So we are just stepping out of, we're just stepping out of civil twilight, moving into nautical twilight. This is when the sun is 6 to 12 degrees below the horizon. Tonight, nautical twilight goes from 8:59 p.m. to 9:44 p.m. We just moved out of what was known as the golden hour in photography and movie making, where the light is superior just as the sun sets or is about to set or about to rise. And there's been dark days in New England. I'll talk about that in a second, but yellow days. It was September 6th, 1881. In New England, the public gardens, all of the vibrant flowers had an extreme whiteness to them. There was a bronze color. It seemed that everything in the air was hazy, yellow, sooty. And it went on for the entire day until the next day when it was 102 degrees, September 7th, 1881. But what happened was there were fires in the Thumb area of Michigan. And all that smoke came eastward and enveloped New England, all the way up to Maine, down to Virginia. Even Chicago witnessed a yellow day. And there's been various yellow days throughout the 18th, 19th centuries. In fact, the last yellow day in New England was a period in late September, September 24th to about the 30th in New England in 1950, when they experienced their last yellow days. And then finally, you hear about the golden hour. There's also the blue hour, which is when the sky is blue in the last stages of astronomical twilight. But a yellow day, that's when you've taken on all the challenges of the day, the triumphs and the losses, and evaluated at the end of the day and commit to yourself that you'll do better tomorrow. So I hope that you took a yellow day and that you do okay tomorrow. Thanks. As we enter the second phase of twilight, reminds me of a story. I did a video for this for the Folklorist called New England's Dark Day. It was also my first magazine or periodical article that I wrote in 2009, I believe. May 19th, 1780. They start noticing that the sun's going dark at Harvard University about 10:30 or 11 a.m. that morning. By 12:45, it was twilight. The woodcocks were peeping, the frogs were peeping, the woodcocks were whistling, the chickens and roosters were crowing. They thought it was night. And a lot of people thought it was the end of the world. So they rushed into churches to pray, thinking that the end was nigh. In Abraham Davenport, a Connecticut councilman, says, well, if it's the end of the world, let it be shown that I was doing my job and doing my duty, so please bring in an extra candle. But it was somebody in a pub in Ipswich, a man who went by the moniker Viator, who noticed there was a sooty smell in the air. And he noticed a layer of soot in a water trough. And he thought it was that night the moon was blood red, a blood moon, which is an omen, a portent of evil and doom. But he thought it was a forest fire. And then recently, members of the University of Missouri went up to the Algonquian forest region in southern Ontario and determined through tree ring analysis that there was a major forest fire in the spring of 1780, and that smoke swept eastward over New England, causing New England's dark day. A lot of the fires that do go on in Quebec sometimes are blown south over New England, but you do have dark days from time to time and yellow days. So I told you about the times that I time traveled when I flew from Labrador to Blanc-Sablon in Quebec and picked up over an hour of time that I'll never get back. But I've never seen that movie Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox, never seen it. I've read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. But know what I like doing for Time Machine? Tonight I'm going to look at a star, and you can see it directly overhead, June 21st, 2020. A bright giant red star called Arcturus in the constellation Bootes. So essentially here in the year 2020, that star is 36.66 light years away. So I did the math and calculated to the hour. So at 9 o'clock tonight, we will be seeing the sun that left the star Arcturus on November 26th, 1983 at 7:20 a.m. in the morning. And just about that time in England, that's when a great Brinks heist was happening at Heathrow Airport, where they took tons of gold and cash and jewels and silver. So next time you look up at a star, remember you're looking at light that left that entity long, long ago. It was May 5th in the year 1110, and it's known as the day the moon went dark. There was a series of volcanic eruptions around the globe, beginning with Mount Osama in Japan in the year 1108, culminating in the moon being obscured on the date of May 5th, 1110. Now, around the world, there was heavy rainfall, droughts in some areas. You had extreme flooding, extreme cold. There was ice in Europe. That was just at the beginning of the Middle Ages, the end of the Dark Ages, and nobody knew why the moon went dark. Of course, in their primitive beliefs, they thought the end of the world was near. But now, through examining ice cores, we now know that there was a major volcanic eruption, or a series of volcanic eruptions that took place from the years 1108 to 1110, causing the day the moon went dark. It was called the year without a summer. The year was 1816. Again, volcanic aerosols being spewed into the atmosphere caused climate change. I tend to believe that if the Earth is full of living conscious beings, that perhaps Gaia is a living conscious entity itself, and it cools itself down from time to time. Well, Mount Tambora in Indonesia went off in April of 1815, and it caused climatic changes worldwide. And it's depicted in J.M.W. Turner's painting of 1828 called Chichester Canal. Spectacular sunsets. Essentially, the northern hemisphere cooled down. They called it the year without wine, the year without bread. It snowed in Boston, on Boston Common and Newton, Massachusetts on June 7th, 1816. There was ice flows in rivers in July and August in Pennsylvania, and it caused some societies to collapse. It caused a lot of civil unrest, brought along a cholera outbreak as well. But it was known 1816 as the year without a summer. And also we did that on Folklore, so you can see that. Log on to Folklorist on YouTube and check out the year without a summer. So climate change is caused by perturbations in the Earth's revolution around the sun, perhaps the amount of sunspots that are on the sun at any given time, and also due to asteroidal or cometary impacts. We still don't know what hit Tunguska in the early part of the 20th century in the taiga of Siberia. But we do know that sometimes volcanoes go off and they cause the climate change, and that's what happened. They called it the year the sun went dark. It was 536 AD. There are various theories. Some say it was volcanic eruptions. Others insist it was a cometary impact. But from 536 to about 538, beginning in September of 536 AD, extreme rain, cold, foggy, crops failed, crop harvest was nil. There was social unrest in China and all around the world, and several societies collapsed due to this epoch in time, 536 AD. What was going on? And for the next 3 years, the crops failed. And then finally, it preceded the plague of Justinian, which began in 541 AD. So again, it could have been a cometary impact. It could have been a series of volcanic eruptions that caused the sun to go dark in the year 563 AD. Another climate change that took place at the tail end of the American Revolution, 1783. People always say the revolution ended at Yorktown. It did not. It went on for 2 more years. But the skies again began to get this coppery hue to them, yellow skies, especially in New England, Philadelphia. And they didn't know it was causing the cooling of the sun and the spectacular sunsets. And it was Ben Franklin who said perhaps it's a volcanic eruption, maybe in Greenland or Iceland. And lo and behold, he was right. They called it the Laki Haze because a volcano went off in Iceland and it dimmed the sun for a series of months in the eastern part of the United States in 1783. So we're halfway through the middle phase of twilight, known as Nautical Twilight. That's when you can see 2 stars, and navigators at sea could navigate by celestial bodies. What year is it? Well, we use the Gregorian calendar here in North America. And what happened was the original calendar was designed by Julius Caesar, called the Julian calendar, more aligned with planting days and seasons. And then Pope Gregory decided he wanted to align the calendar more with traditional Christian holidays. So Great Britain cut over. And the United States, even before it was the United States, in September 1752, they wanted to jump from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. So in the history of the United States and Canada, September 2nd, 1752, was followed by September 14th, 1752. So the dates September 3rd through September 13th do not exist in the history of the United States. So all of us here in the United States, North America, we are currently, today is June 21st, 2020, in the Gregorian calendar. Ethiopia still recognizes the Julian calendar. It's June 8th, 2020 there. The Mayan calendar says it's the year 3114. The Hebrew calendar, 29 Shavan, 5780. The Persian Islamic calendar, the Hijri, says it's the year 1441, commemorating, pivoting year 1 was 622 AD, when Muhammad went from Mecca to Medina. The Indian calendar also has a different format. There are 2 different types of Hindu calendars. So everyone around the world recognizes the year as a different year according to their customs and their time. China, 4718, the year of the rat. So now we're in the final phase of twilight. June 21st, 2020, it goes from 9:44 to 10:39 p.m. So we are in the first minute of the final phase, which is known as Astronomical Twilight, where the sun is actually 12 to 18 degrees below the horizon of the moon. Today there was a ring of fire solar eclipse. A lot of people in Asia and the Pacific Rim saw a solar eclipse, and there's a lunar eclipse coming up here in New England, June 5th and 6th. July 5th and 6th. 2020, so I hope to bring that to you and do a portion on that. But I talked tonight about like the blood moon being seen in New England's dark day and some of those other dark events. But the day the moon went out in 11:10, the sun went out in 5:36, the New England's yellow day. But the blood moon has always been a portent of evil, dating back thousands of years. Ancient cultures have thought that it's an animal, whether it's the Chinese thinking a dragon was eating the moon, or the Mayans thinking a jaguar was eating the moon. But every culture thought that it was a portent of evil whenever there was a lunar eclipse. And of course, I think it's called selenihelion. And that's when you can actually see a blood moon and the sun in the sky at the same time, because what you're seeing for a lunar eclipse is the Earth's shadow on the moon, as opposed to a solar eclipse where the moon's shadow is upon the Earth. Sleep. Oops, you saw the beer there, didn't you? Sleep. Some of us take it for granted. Some of us relish it. Some of us don't get it. Especially during this COVID crisis. You've heard the term night owl. Night owl is somebody who stays up late at night. An extreme night owl is somebody who stays up till just before dawn or after dawn. But night owls usually are sleepless on an involuntary basis. They want to go to sleep. But some of them are most productive at night between the hours of 8 and 2 a.m. A study comparing night owls, and by the way, the night owl sleeps during the day, hunts during the night, and human beings are diurnal, both day and night. Although we seem to function as a society better in the daytime and relax at night. But studies have shown that night owls are always late, and that they have attitude problems. But they always get the highest paying jobs. They have been shown to be more creative, more intelligent, and using inductive reasoning than the lark or the early riser. Now, larks, early risers, get to bed at a reasonable time, get up early. They're more productive, certainly in academia, it's been shown, and they have better health exercise regimens, and more disciplined and on time. And early risers also tend to be better financially in terms of managing their accounts. So if you're a night owl and you're trying to get to sleep, I hope you get to sleep tonight. I've had some sleepless nights. Usually I'm a good sleeper. I have sleep apnea. And if you're an early riser, keep it up, man. So, do whatever is best for you. But if you can get some sleep without using over-the-counters, that's the best thing. And lately I've been exercising, and that's been helping me get some shut-eye at night. Okay. We're going to shut her down now as we move into evening. We're in the latter phases of Astronomical Twilight. Chinese astronomers discuss a supernova in their chronicles in the year 1054 AD, which today we know as the Crab Nebula. Now there's a star by the name of Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse in the constellation Orion. It's in the shoulder. It's the second brightest star in Orion, a super red giant that fits just within the asteroid belt and may even take up the orbit of Jupiter. That's how big it is. It's 700 light years away. But it's been a variable star as determined by John Herschel, an astronomer in the 1850s. And since October, the magnitude has dimmed and brightened. It started out as a 0.6 in October of 2019, and then it dimmed significantly all the way down to a magnitude of 1.8 in mid-January of this year, 2020. Now it's getting brighter and brighter. In fact, it's brightened to a 0.4 magnitude. 0.4. Let me explain magnitudes to you. They're apparent magnitudes. Use the sun as an example. Minus 26.7. That's how bright it is. A full moon is minus 12. Venus is minus 4.2. The brightest star in the sky that you see in the winter in the northern hemisphere, Sirius, is minus 1.45. So the stars in the Big Dipper are relatively zeros and plus ones. So that gives you an idea of magnitude. So this thing's been dimming. And if it goes supernova and blows up, they think that it could become almost as bright as half a moon. It's like a minus 6. So we've been watching Betelgeuse, but if that's something that would be so rare in our lifetime, we were lucky enough, if you were alive in 1994, to see Comet Shoemaker-Levy hit Jupiter. I was always under the idea that Jupiter saved Earth and took one for the team, took the beating. But we actually had photographs of this comet hitting the surface of Jupiter, which was really neat. But this is a huge astronomical event in terms of Betelgeuse, a star that has been seen by the ancients for thousands and thousands of years. All right, let's go tonight. Okay, all right. So I told a Bigfoot story on the Charles River the other day, the monkeys one. This is a Bigfoot Shirt, yes. It's a conference. Don Keating is my buddy from Eastern Ohio, Newcomers Town. And I spoke at this conference. Don has been 10 years already, buddy. But Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Larry Lund, who's a buddy, Bob Gimlin, who took that film, the Patterson-Gimlin film, October 20th, 1967, of this ape-like creature in Bluff Creek, California. And then Tom Yamarone, a singer, etc. So that was good. Either way, I spoke there. I talked about the Bridgewater Triangle hoax. But that's a t-shirt. I wore this tonight because I was walking around. I didn't want to get run over by somebody on a scooter or a car. As we drive towards evening and the completion of leg 40, what I've been doing is extra miles, by the way. If kayak an extra mile here or there, half mile, walk an extra half mile, walk an extra 2 miles. For gravy miles, for when I
needed to slow down because this is the 17th day of my quest, and I just passed leg 40, son. I want to get this done, but I didn't expect to get 40 legs down in 17 days. That means I have a lot of rain days and maintenance days. Today I got caught in a thunderstorm, second one of the year. I got caught in Spot Pond back a few weeks ago in rain, but this one came down. I was walking through Feek Cemetery, which is a measured 5-mile track for me, so I know if I walk it, I don't have to measure it on my app. Same with my Charles River run up to Newton Lower Falls. That's a measured 5-mile run. But I feel good, man. It's just, Jenny's been very, very good in understanding that she's married to a crazy guy with 4 personalities, but I'm OCD, but going for it. To get to these 40 legs at this point, I've walked 17 straight days, kayaked 16 straight days, and I've been doubling up on legs. I call it my Myathlon biathlon, where I do 2 legs, 1 leg walking, 1 leg kayaking. And then today I did a triathlon. Yesterday I did a pentathlon. That's 5 legs. That's 5 7.7 Ks walking and kayaking, alternating, which is 4.78 miles. That beat the crap out of me. And then the day before that I did another triathlon. And the day before that I think I did a quadrathlon, 4 legs in one day. But what I'm thinking about is Wednesday, June 25th, weather permitting, and this is insane, but I'm cuckoo as well. I'm going to do a heptathlon. That's 7 legs in one day. And I was doing the math. I got to get up at dawn, do a double walk, which is 9.5 miles. Then get in the kayak, do a double kayak, which is 9.5 miles. Then walk for 4.78, kayak 4.78, walk 4.78, and I'll get the heptathlon. And I figure if my pentathlon took 12 hours or 13 hours it might have taken, then this is going to probably take 14 to 15 hours. So we'll see. So friends have said, John, what the hell are you doing? And I told them, you be you and I be mine. You'll be yourself and I'll be myself. As a performer, I'm content in performance. I've hidden behind scripts my entire life as a professional sports announcer. I did community theater for 10 years. I always got the lead role, not because I could act, but I could memorize large passages of dialogue. My director, Marge White, who directed me in several productions, once said, you always want to do a 2-hour play in an hour and 45 minutes. The beer will still be cold when you get off stage. So this is just extemporaneous, literally off the top of my head history. I have a million stories in my head. Had the folklores continued into production, I had dozens and dozens of more stories. So what I'm trying to do is, it's batting practice for me. No different if you're in the gym, lifting weights, or on the driving range, getting your swing down. That's what I'm doing here, and I'm hoping to make a documentary about the Great Dying. It's the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims, but people forgot about the Great Dying. They brought their guns, their germs, and their steel, and I had shot it with drone work and everything, and then all of a sudden COVID came about, so the whole dynamic changes with the mask, and I don't know if I have to reshoot it. I have the narrative in my head. I've been up and down the Charles River. I've literally logged 1,000 miles walking, easy. Walking and kayaking along that. It's a very historic river, the Obiquin, appropriated from the Massachusetts tribe. It was the Massachusetts River, taken from the Algonquin, part of the Wampanoag Federation, the Nonantum Indians, the Pequasit, etc. But that's what I've been working on. So this history is what I do is I'm walking, and the first idea that comes to my head, I wiki it. I love wiki. There's some stuff they get wrong, but going down the rabbit hole of Wikipedia is wonderful. But just that's where I get it. I memorize my script, and I'm a stat head, a dialogue head, and then I get the data points. I try to construct the narrative, and I give myself, once I read it, I give myself 60 seconds to go on, because I don't want to disrupt my walk. I pull over and retreat, or if I got it in my head, I'll just shoot it. One last babble before we come to nightfall. So tonight, in order for you to transition from day to night, today, June 21st, 2020, took 2 hours and 16 minutes. The 3 phases of twilight. Well, first of all, we had a good day, didn't we? If you listen to the other comments, we talked about the sunset and the green flash. We talked about the calendar, the day of 2 noons when they aligned the clocks, the compass. We talked about when the sun went out, when the sun went dark, when the moon went dark. We talked about dark days, yellow days, me jabbering on about my career and why I'm doing this. But if you ever want to walk now, so when you want to walk from day to night, it's going to take you about 2 hours and 15 minutes. The general rule of thumb I use here. So solar midnight, by the way, when the sun is equidistant from solar noon, is at 12:46 a.m. tonight, or June 22nd, 2020. So I'm going to come off after this and just say goodnight to you all. And thank you so much for sticking with me. If you got this far in the videos, hope you learned something, because I believe time, space, continuum can be twisted. I think that there is something faster than the speed of light. We have to get out of the mode of thinking that we're just human, that we're humans and we know everything. We don't. We're stupid. We kill each other. We've been at war for 10,500 years. So certainly I think that if some civilization got a head start on us, if the universe is 4.7 billion years old or even older. By the way, if you look towards the Big Dipper, you're looking basically at the farthest galaxy ever seen that was photographed by Hubble Space Telescope. So it's literally across the universe, one of my favorite Beatles songs. So as we move into evening, I just hope that you guys all have a great summer. Thanks for staying with me, and then I'm going to say goodnight on the final evening video. We're just like 3 minutes away. Bye. Okay, folks. Okay, this is the final video of the evening. As I speak, we're moving from the last phase of twilight into night, into evening. It's 10:39 p.m. We've moved out of astronomical twilight, which is when the sun is 12 to 18 degrees below the horizon of the Earth. So this approximately took 2 hours and 15 minutes, say, to go from daylight into night. People have asked me about astrology. I love astronomy. And if I look at the vast distances of stars and galaxies, I believe there's life elsewhere. And moreover, if there's life elsewhere, by sure they visited here. We're driving fossil-fueled, piston-driven engines. We're still killing each other. And we're at the cutting edge of technology when we drive 65 miles per hour. It's absurd to think that there isn't a more intelligent entity out there in the universe. And moreover, the modern age of UFOs began in the late 1940s, post-World War II, and you could maybe attribute that to 3 things, and that just shows you how close they are. If these things go out by the speed of light, number 1, we developed the rocket engine, or it was being developed in Germany. We could get off the mud ball. Number 2, atomic weapons, and number 3, radio signals. It's estimated now that Jack Benny shows of the 1930s have passed 3 or 4 stars, which is amazing. Closest stars, Alpha Proxima Centauri, I think, is like 3 light years away. But anyways, I just want to thank you for joining me. In terms of astrology, let me just circle back to that. I'm a Capricorn. I've known some good astrologers, and there's been some pretty good ones that have made some amazing predictions. And I'd always like to get a catalog of planetary conjunctions in certain constellations, and I could certainly correlate them with a historical event of any years. But one of the most fascinating astrological or astronomical formations always I've been intrigued by is the Star of Bethlehem. Some say it was a conjunction, that is, that Jupiter and Saturn were right near each other in the constellation Pisces in about 7 BC. Others insist it was Jupiter and Venus next to the star Regulus in Taurus. Who knows? But I believe that the entire universe is one vast equation, and we are sub-equations within that massive equation, and we have hard-coded variables in our lives that we can't control, and there are other variables that we certainly can control. So remember that, okay? Peace be with you. Thanks for joining me on this journey, traveling from night into day. I'll see you on Lake 41.